you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear, and you're listening in to another Game Idea Foundry Talk episode. And this one is titled Jack Runs the Show because we're going to be listening to
Yes.
his idea today. And as I promised, I keep my promises on that. So if anybody else is interested, now you know I'm not joking.
Right.
Go ahead, Jack.
Exactly. Yeah, man. So I appreciate it first and foremost. For giving me the platform to actually do it. I mean, I definitely have a channel, but I'm too lazy to put it together. So I mean, I appreciate you for taking the time to set this aside for me to actually talk about, this idea I've had for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all right. So the game idea that I've been sitting on for a while. Um I've done a video on my channel before about the original title. And it's a original title from the Nintendo 64, and it's the Mystical Ninja series. The Mystical
Oh,
Ninja series is
Goemon.
yeah. So it's been around for a while. Uh, when I first got my hands on it, trust me, I never knew it even existed. It was just one
Mm.
of those Nintendo 64 games. My grandma saw at the store, at the local drugstore, and was like, "Hey, it's $20. Let me pick it up." You know, and
That was a good buy at that price.
it was a good buy. It was a really good buy. You know what I'm saying? So it was a game that if I hadn't played that game, wouldn't understand the concept of going back and beating a game that you've already beat. But I think I may have beat that game 10 times over, trying to get all the collectibles of the golden cats and everything that's in that game. So the main reason why I kind of want to bring this game back or kind of remake it, if you will, is it's a great game. Even if you go back and play it now, controller aside, different camera options aside, with it being the 64 with the C buttons, if you were to bring quality of life to that game, it would be a hands down great action adventure platforming game. So to kind of give like a quick breakdown of some quick hitters here and there, you have like four main characters, if you will, outside, including Goemon. uh
Mm-hmm.
you'll get these characters over time. You'll definitely start off with two up front with Goemon and what was the other character's name? Ibi Sumaru is like your
Oh,
two.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so the little fat chubby guy with the blue outfit. Yeah, so you start off with those two, and then as you continue to progress throughout the game, you'll get the other two characters in Ye and Sasuke. Um, and you'll eventually get those characters. So you have a character of four people. You can change them on the fly, no matter what level you're in, and they all have their own personality. They have their own traits and attacks and things that you have in the game. So you really kind of need them in their own way. Eventually, they'll get superpowers. Goemon does his own Super Saiyan situation to where he'll get a little bit stronger. Um, Evil Sumaru will get smaller so you can fit into the little tight spots. Yay, she turns into a mermaid so you can swim. And then you have Sasuke, which is kind of like the little robot. He'll have his own little, I think it's like the little long hair situation to where he can fight that way. Um, but yeah, I mean it's a great game. I mean it has its camera issues that I would fix, frame rate issues, which was most 64 games in a way, but
Yeah.
they had an open world section to where the moment you hit the open world section and there were at least two or three enemies that popped up on the screen, it would drop severely.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough back then to care, but nowadays it would be noticeable if you really
Yeah.
drop. And even speed runners now that run this game, they have ways to where if they hold a certain button combination before they go into the open world, those enemies don't spawn, so therefore the frame rate doesn't drop. So they could have their faster pace through the game. Um, Outside of camera issue, frame rate issues, they could have improved on the map. With most games that are not Mario, there are some platforming issues here and there that they may have to fix, and then also there's some graphical hitches with it once again being the 64. But outside of that, the music, the plot for the game, um, the actual controls themselves, the whole premise of having some fights or boss fights on ground, or some fights within Impact, which is the robot, which ironically enough is a superstar himself. So he comes in, helps, and then he goes to shoot his movie somewhere else after he's done helping out. So you have the humor there. So between the humor, the music, the levels, which were very diverse, and then just the gameplay in itself. This is a no brainer that I would definitely bring back on the Switch, and with quality of life changes, would definitely remake this game.
Because I'm like, damn. Last time I played Mystical Ninja, damn, that was a long ass. But like, I do agree. Like, the game was awesome, and it did have a few small hitches that kind of slowed things down.
Right.
But yeah, I could see them bringing it back and making a good deal of. Okay, little man, calm down. But I can see them making a good deal of money off of it, especially because it's so outlandish and weird
Yeah.
that it just fits the Switch anyway.
Yep.
Like almost everything else that got popular on it.
Right.
So, what changes would you? I mean, I know you said like the kind of the premise, the idea of what changes you would make, but
Mhm.
like what specific changes would you make for improving the game?
Um, some of the specific ones that I would touch on would definitely be the open world in itself. The open world, while it in that time, I guess you can say, was pretty ambitious for a game going from level to level. Um, I think that you should add a lot more in those open world areas. They were pretty straightforward, just to kind of get where you need to get to, and then even after a little bit of time, the way that you would go from level to level change. So you really wouldn't even need to see the open world, because you would just hop on a dragon, fly to the next level, and then bam, there you go. Um, so the open world areas, I would definitely flesh those out a lot more. Not saying that they need to be anything crazy like a Witcher 3 or anything like that, but if you're going to have those areas improved, they definitely need the enemy count and a reason for me to be there other than just collectathon situations. That's definitely something that needed to be changed for sure. Um, Other things I would change would definitely be updates to the dungeons that they had. They definitely had your different types of levels and your underwater dungeons and everything like that. But there's a lot of changes, because I know they were trying to go the what am I thinking? They were trying to do like a Metroidvania type thing, just a little bit. So you'll be in a level, especially for the first level, when you're in the main castle. Uh, you would go to certain areas, go fight these monsters, grab this key, double back this way, unlock this door, get that key, double back the other way that you just came from. So they were trying to do a lot of back and forth to kind of flesh out the level. But if they would give you a lot more to do, to where you didn't have to do a lot of back and forth, uh, I think you would get a lot more enjoyment out of the levels that you actually were going through. Um, I don't think the boss battles were ever a true issue. It was just more or less of, if you play through the levels now, it'll be a lot easier for people to get lost in those levels if you didn't already play it, to kind of figure it out already. Because I mean, you already know back then a lot of things relied on those manuals we got. So if you didn't read that manual, you were lost on a lot of things, whether it was attacks or certain things you could do, because the game wasn't telling you. Um, so outside of that, the robot battles, I think those need to be fleshed out a lot more. It was a lot of, if you figured out the routine, you could just grab, attack, repeat. It was just a lot of rinse and repeat with those battles, and I feel like if they did a lot more with those impact battles, uh, they could have been awesome. There were definitely things that I saw within those speed runs I didn't even know you could do, and once again, it was just something that was never explained. So I think fleshing out the levels, the open world areas of the levels, um, stopping the back and forth within some of the levels, and then also improving on those robot battles with impact.
Okay, I could see that working out, especially. I mean, I understand why they were trying to do the Metroidvania stuff, but
Hmm.
they didn't really give you abilities that made it worth having.
Right.
So maybe if they could add in abilities that broke it up some instead of just the keys, it might
Yeah.
actually work out better. Where you could have different moves that each character could learn
Hmm.
to add into different platforming. And actually, yeah, that would help out with some of the platforming problems
Hmm.
because characters might not have a proper move for certain platforming situations and just be stuck or repeatedly trying to do something in order to, because I know those jumps, like especially some of the ledge jumps were really
Yeah.
tight in that game.
Very
So
tight.
you could miss something by just that little bit, and if you
Yep.
didn't run to the very edge and jump, you
Hmm.
miss it thinking you can't make the jump, and then you get stuck running around the area and looking for another path, and you get back to that spot, and then you finally somehow get the lucky ninja guide and jump
Hmm.
and
Yep.
catch the ledge and keep walking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that being a
It
pain in
was
the butt.
very, very tight. Very, very tight platforming. Like you said, if you were not right there on the ledge, it was a wrap. There's no way you were making that jump. It's just not happening. And
Yeah, they were a
you
pain in
know,
the butt.
sometimes that was due to bad camera angles too. Sometimes
Yeah,
you couldn't even get behind the camera because the wall was in the way. It's just something you couldn't do. But yeah, I definitely think if you took all these changes and put them all together, some would fix themselves. But definitely for sure, like you were saying, with these abilities, when I mentioned with Ye, with her only having the mermaid power, that does nothing for me on land. But
nope.
and she does have the flute too, to call up the dragon. But outside of that, she's not really doing anything on land. Even though she's one of my favorite characters next to Sasuke, and that was kind of one of the issues too with the game. Much like Wonderful 101, a lot of the good characters that you got at the tail end of the game, so you really didn't get a chance to use them like you wanted to, and so they were kind of a waste in a way because even when you got Sasuke, you still had to get the batteries put in his back for him to work, and then you could use them.
Yeah, of like it's like they had so many great design ideas, but they didn't utilize them very well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like I could see where that would make sense if you wanted to do a full remake of it and have the characters have added, like I said, added abilities, especially for Sasuke. He's a robot. There's so much stuff that you could just do with him that,
right.
that they just never utilize that character for.
Yeah, it's definitely there. I mean, it was all laid out. You could tell they were trying to, I guess, not make too long of a game. So, like I said, with
Well, yeah,
Goemon, he was right there in the entire game, and I like the fact that he did get his upgrade. So you had what was it, the pipe flute,
mm,
after, or chain flute, chain pipe, one of the two. But he started off to where it was just his main attack, and then eventually he could then extend it out to the star boxes that you had to pull him across if you couldn't make those platform jumps.
yeah,
So he seemed to have some changes throughout the game, but it didn't go across for other characters.
yeah, because you got, like you said, you got a couple of them later on. And at that
Hmm.
point, I guess they figured, well, since you got the characters and their new abilities, that's the upgrade.
Right, exactly. And I understood that everybody played their role. If I'm in the water area, I have to use Yay. I mean, I have to go for that mermaid. If I'm in a situation to where I see a hole in the wall, I'm gonna have to switch to Ibisu Moro. I have to turn very small and have him go under. And I understand, and that's smart usage of the characters. It's just when it came down to those not so specific areas, I felt like I had to resort to a certain character to platform and to get around, whether it felt easier to make those jumps because they were a little more forgiving on those ledges to make those tight jumps, or if
Yeah,
it was just by design. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I
that,
mean, definitely.
those are definitely some QOL changes and fixes that they could make. But like going back to the idea you talked about, the having a dragon for transportation. You talking about like how how it's done in Shantae, where you use the bird to fly around to different locations,
Yeah,
or just
yeah.
have it, as a way to skip the overworld if you don't really need to travel through it.
Well, see, as of right now, the game was a way for you to get from level to level. If you didn't want to
Hmm.
take the time to walk your way across the overworld to actually get to that level, you just play the flute. The dragon comes, takes you to whatever level you select, and that's how you would do a
Okay.
lot of your back and forth.
Yeah, I think that that would cut down on a lot of the in between slowdown times,
Hmm.
especially if
Yeah,
you don't have a reason to run into the overworld to look for anything. And they could add in side quests and stuff to expand it and give you more character lore and stuff like that.
yeah,
And they could also use that as a way to help you find your additional character upgrades,
yeah.
something
Because I
that
mean,
they could be used for.
all that stuff was in levels to where I feel like you could have done that in those overworld areas too. Um, because I mean, it required the cats, the hearts that you would collect, and then also the different mini games you would do, which were awesome as well. Adding more mini games would definitely be a plus. But definitely the mini games were one of the ways that you would get your power. So I did like the way that they made you go about getting your power, as opposed to, well, you made it to point A in the game, so you just automatically get it. It was like, hey,
Yeah,
well, you made it here, you need to talk to such and such, which sometimes in turn you would have to go and talk to another person. Then you have to go find this guy, and then you have to go find where he's at for you to go get. So it was just a lot of filler
yeah.
that didn't really seem to make too much sense in itself.
Okay, so would you want the mini games for acquiring the powers? Would you want also like a mini game, not a tutorial necessarily, but a mini game that kind of makes you have to use the upgrades in order
There you
to
go.
to achieve a goal, so that way you can get yourself used to using them?
Right. So a lot of those powers, you just did mini games, and then you got said power. So for example, for you to get the shrinking ability, I was catching fish. It's like, hey, bring me
Yeah,
this many red fish, this many yellow fish, this many blue fish. And I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with me shrinking? Like, this is me catching a fish. I'm confused.
it kind of feels out of place.
Yeah, it's that's what it was. And I mean, I had seen areas to where I had to go small, but that was in a very random area that you go to get an extra piece, if you will, to get like a golden cat, but it was never necessary for you to truly do anything in the game until you got later on down the line.
Okay, I can get that. Got any thoughts on this so far, Jay?
Not yet.
I'm about to say, I think he came in the middle, like,
Just
what are
listening.
y'all talking about?
Not yet. I'm correlating my thoughts together.
Okay. Well, talking about a mystical ninja idea that Jack has had for like, and that's why I was
Oh
like, okay, yeah,
man,
go on, I'm good with that.
one of the games they should have had a remaster already.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Yeah,
and then the
that's
crazy
what
part
that's
about
that's
it,
what he's laying out right now.
not to go off subject, but I was looking up what was the last Goemon game. It was a freaking slot machine in 2011.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah, because that in that when Konami was talking about they doing pachinko machine. Yeah.
pachinko.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So, yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
started
yeah,
off in arcades, ended up in slot machines.
yeah, we're gonna have to pray for Konami. We just gonna have to
Right,
pray for Konami. Just gonna have to
right.
pray for Konami because that's
Now, one thing I don't want to kind of take this into a Sonic's generation thing, but I know there are fans of the 3D open world aspect, but a lot of these games are side scrollers. The sequel
Yeah,
to this game was a side scroller, which kind of threw me off. So when I first heard about part two, I was like, oh, it was a part two. So went, found the ROM, and I was highly disappointed. Say, okay, this is not what I expected. But yeah, there's a side scroller, but I think you can interchange those ideas to kind of bring in both crowds. You got your
well.
3D sections and your side scrolling sections.
What do you mean, like going like 2.5D?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. like where you could have
People,
whole 3D segments and then whole 2D segments.
I mean, 2.5D, people be underestimating 2.5D. If that level design is good in 2.5D, you really have an awesome game. Subspace Emissary. And you know, I mean, just throwing it out there.
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad place for Konami to get the inspiration from.
Yeah, yeah.
To be honest,
right. But I mean,
because that was so full of content for a small game. So.
It was for a small section of said game, yeah. But I mean, they definitely have. I mean, it's definitely laid out for them because they had a great game. You know, another thing too. I don't know if this would be more of a hand-holding situation, but let's say in the beginning of the game, there's a certain individual that you have to look for because he's stealing from everybody in the area. So if you show up, he'll run up to you, he'll steal your coins, and then blast off quick. Like it's hard to catch him. So you kind of have to bop him before he get your coins, and then you're like, okay, cool, he'll chill out. But it's not necessarily told, and I think the reason why is because they depend on you to either A, figure it out yourself, or go to the shrine to where you have to pay money to get like a hint. Like, hey, you want to know what the next thing is for you to do? Give me some money and I'll tell you. And
don't you hate when that happens?
Right. So, I mean, to me, there were a lot of things that you'll get to that certain point and you're like, I know this is where I'm supposed to be, but it's just that one little thing that you don't know you have to do before it trigger that cutscene or trigger that action. And that's where I feel like I wouldn't say hand holding, but more of a hint or even a better map system to tell you in a way where to go.
Well, I think honestly, if they gave characters dialogue that, like if you're playing a game and the characters are talking about rumors or something like that, or like you did say with the example with the dude stealing your money. Okay, you walk into the town at the beginning of the area for the town, you have either a guard or somebody who has just been robbed that's angry tell you about the thief. And kind of give you an idea of what he looks like. Or say, well, this guy with blue hair is running around stealing people's coins,
right?
Something like that.
Yeah,
and then you will see him running at you, and you like, okay, I got one or two options. I can either let him rob me, or I can bash him.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing that I think would be a fantastic idea. Because I mean, when you look at the game in itself, you could talk to the different NPCs that are around, and sometimes they're talking about something, sometimes they're not, but it's definitely one of those games you need to speak to every NPC, otherwise you will be lost. There are certain areas you won't find unless you just stumble up on it. They don't really give you directions. You can read some of like the signs to kind of pinpoint you where you need to go, but it's an easy game to get lost in, especially when you go into those open world areas because they're so open, full of nothing, that it's like, okay, well, I think I came from this way, or did I come from that gate, or did I come from that gate? Like you get real confused about where you're coming from and where you're going if you're not paying attention. So it's missing a lot of key directional information, whether it be maps or anything like that. Because the map that you do have is just, I think it's like a blue dragon radar. You're flashing on it, and it tells you, hey, you can go wherever you go, and it's not necessarily helpful per se. It's just more of like I think
so they would need to. Yeah. So then they would need to hit a monolith sauce and have them put do their navigation system for the game.
Yeah. They really. I mean,
that's what that sounds like to me.
They really should, because I mean the dungeon maps were okay because they had them layered. So whether it was like 3 to 4 floors, you can say, okay, well, I'm switching those floors, and then like anything else, which floor the boss is on because it has the whole skull and everything like that. But definitely something that they could improve on, because there's been plenty of times to where I was still looking for something, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's in here, and then bam, I just walked in on the boss, so I can't turn around. So I'm like, that's a wrap. So now I have to go back through, and some of those levels got destroyed.
You just walked in it. Walk in the
Yeah.
room and locked in.
Yeah. So, but yeah, but Trinell has a good point. I mean, I think that's one of those things too, to where they could add new abilities. Because I mean, right now, like I said, they have maybe two. They have one weapon increase, and then they have like an actual ability that they do. And like I said, they're all, I guess you could say, they work in their own time and space. But as far as the weapons go, they kind of serve their purpose as well.
Yeah.
So
But like what he's talking about doesn't make sense though, but you have to come up with items and things
mhm.
that work for that. So like in Goemon, if you want the character to be able to do a thing where they turn into paper, then you have to have an item for that, like maybe like
Oh
a
yeah,
wand or like a genie's lamp or something like that,
yeah,
where it can make sense in the setting. And it's not like that wouldn't make sense in a Goemon game, but
hmm
you just have to consider it and think about what will work.
yeah.
So
Because I
like
mean, you
I'd
would
be
definitely need
for
a
it.
package. Yeah, it definitely have to
Yeah.
be like a different, I guess, new levels to kind of incorporate that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, when you look at the very first time you get Goemon's weapon with the flute, well, not the flute, but the little, yeah, I think it is the flute that he gets. You have to go to Mount Fuji. You have to climb
Was it
it.
the flute or was it a pipe?
Pipe. There it is, the pipe. There you go. So it was the pipe.
Yeah.
So he has to go to Mount Fuji, climb up Mount Fuji, go into that main building, and go through the little lava section or whatever, and find the guy that makes them. So that way he can actually get it. And it makes you go through what you have to go through to get your upgrades, if you will. So I mean, it's definitely something that I think they should have, like we said, incorporated on the power side, because there was nothing you had to do on that scale for the power side. It was just do a mini game or two, and here you go.
Yeah, and it's something that they could add to level design to make certain situations where you got to get your upgrades, make them difficult to get into the areas.
Yeah,
But then when you get the upgrade, show like using it to get back out.
yeah,
So
hmm
it makes sense.
right.
Something that Metroid games have done for a long time. If they want to use that as a kind of inspiration, like anytime you get a specific upgrade in the Metroid, you end up having to use it to get out of the area you're in.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
So I
it's a
think that
lot
would
they
be a
can
good
pick and
feature.
choose from. Yeah, they can pick and choose from a lot of games that have come out now. Metroid, like you said, for example, and then like I said, going into those boss fights, the boss fights were fine. There were I wouldn't say there were too many issues. They were more of your, I think it's like maybe depending on the boss is like a 3 to 6 hit situation. To where okay, you
Mm.
hit them and they go through their cycle, and some speed runners found a way to where you can kind of cut certain cycles out altogether, to kind of chop it down. Uh, but when for those they were fine, but like I said, those impact battles, they had 8 boss battles with impact, and like I said, they were very very basic, very very basic, and even the final boss battle, you have an impact battle, and even then, I'm thinking that's supposed to be very dynamic, but it was the same thing. You just throw out there, grab him, yank him in, beat on his face, he'll fly back, and then start it all over again.
So you'd have to change that up a little
So
bit then.
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
it was very
they'd have to
basic.
add some challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think the only challenge with that was reeling them in. Because once when you grabbed them, you had to keep smashing that A button for them to get reeled in, and then once when they were in, then you can just start welling on them going to work.
As long as they don't go full Ninja Guy, and yeah.
Yeah, so
The Ninja Gaiden boss fights where
I was going.
you have carpal tunnel, you have arthritis, and you
hmm
still lost.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
What I'm thinking with that is to give all of the impact bosses specifically give them a dynamic AI that learns from how you're playing.
Mm,
So when you learn, like you figure out how to beat them, they change up their pattern to throw you off, and
yeah,
they adjust to whatever you're doing. So it changes depending on which character you're using against the boss.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that can be done with those fights, and I think a lot came down to tutorials not being there. Specifically before every impact battle, there is this weird segment to where you're on roller skates and you're just going through a town and just destroying stuff and jumping over bridges so you don't trip up. But the entire time that you're like knocking stuff over, you're building up power. So you
Hmm.
destroying cities and buildings is you building power somehow. But he's just on roller skates and the impact song's playing and you just swinging and jumping. That's literally what it is. So it's kind of like your shoot 'em up, but just in a big robot. I don't. I mean, it's adding to the humor, but outside of that, I honestly I don't see the purpose of that build up before the fight because that just adds more to it. You go in there,
They
you doing
could
this.
they could change that out.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, me roller skating and tearing up cities just to get ready for the real boss fight doesn't make any sense to me.
It's
Let's
just
say if
chalk it
they,
up to the 90s.
Yeah,
yeah,
Chalk it up to the 90s.
at this point, I would say having something more like having something comical where you see the characters like working on the robot, and you have
right.
to do like a timed rhythm game or something
There
in
you
order
go.
for them to be successful at fixing up what they need on it. So the better you do, the stronger your robot is going into the fight. So
That
if you
makes
do
more sense.
horrible, you're gonna have a struggle.
That makes more sense. Me rollerblading, tearing people's houses up doesn't make any sense. It's just why am I stronger because I'm causing destruction? That makes no sense. It really doesn't.
Honestly, they should turn. hon- Honestly, they should flip it and turn that into a cut scene coming back at you, where you see the boss doing that, and then while the boss is doing that, your characters are working on the robot at the same time. So split the screen,
Right.
and you can see your characters working on the robot, but you see the boss rampage and just tearing stuff up.
And everybody's looking
So
for
on
impact.
top
Like,
of
where's
you
impact?
needing to, yeah, so on top of you needing to do well to make sure impact is ready to go,
Hmm.
you also see that the boss is tearing stuff up. So the quicker and better you do, the less damage done to the towns, and the stronger your robot is.
So now, do we start
So
doing
that would add some dynamics.
now with that being added? Do we start going into platinum, that platinum lane, to where we start giving grades for what we do?
I think specifically for the impact boss fights, yes,
Mm,
because
okay.
it just adds to the comedy of it. Because it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, this is the only time we're going to rank you is in these moments. Everything else we don't care, but you have to be ranked here.
And it would actually play into the story too, because like I said, Impact is a movie star. So he only comes in
Yep.
when you need him, and then after that he flies back off to go shoot his movie in Japan.
You know what would be funny?
Yeah.
Remember at the end of like fights in Smash, Brawl, and Melee, they would give you those little messed up like stat achievement type
Mhm.
titles. Just have one of those
Yeah.
Yep.
we
I can see
get through.
people getting into that.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
really? Do you even know what you're doing? Like type title so like that? That would be
Like
hilarious.
say like so if you do it's like if you just say for example you do horribly bad on it, it's like, well, that happened. That could
Right.
be one of the titles.
yeah,
So
definitely. I mean, adding aesthetic changes to where I know I wasn't super clean in the fight, so Impact shouldn't look clean. It's
Yeah.
like I
no,
should
it
see
shouldn't.
some type of beat up form of Impact because every time you win a boss battle, Impact, you get this creepy look at his face, and it's just Goemon smiling because that's what Impact looks like, and you just see the destruction in his eyes where the robot is blowing up. So I'm like, well, maybe you can start seeing like true marks and dents and stuff like that, which I'm pretty sure wasn't
Yeah.
all the way doable in the 64 era, but
I mean, it was
definitely could be done
doable, but
now.
not well enough that they needed to worry about it.
Right, exactly. So I mean, definitely something they can change, but there's a lot of things they can add because I mean, if you look at the entire game, it's kind of centered around a play, if you will, because you do have a narrator reading things off, and it's like in the bottom corner, it's like a little elephant, and it'll tell you, hey, he's the narrator. He's kind of telling you the details of this, that, and the third. And when you do meet some of these antagonists, they come in like it's a play. Even at the end of the game, the two main villains are doing an opera play at the end. So it's kind of like how they said that Super Mario 3 was supposed to be a play.
Yeah.
And this essentially how it was. You know, you had your Barons, Sharons, and Collins, and all that stuff that'll spin in and fight you, and they would have the music playing in the back, and it was all like a big play. So I think they can add a little more to that outside of just the cutscenes and the dialogue. They could try to find something to do with inside gameplay like that. But it was definitely, like I said, it
Mhm.
has the humor there. They can definitely add more to it, but the humor is definitely there already.
Yeah, I think it would be cool if they were to go ahead and like give the narrator pause for being impatient, sort of like
Right.
what game was it? Stanley Parable, where the
Yeah.
narrator would get impatient with you
Yeah.
if you did stuff that wasn't a part of the program or you took too long. So like say you running a bunch of side quests and you don't move the main game, and
Hmm.
then the narrator is like, and we see Goemon take on another side quest.
Right. Right. Now, would
Not
you add?
perpetuating the main story at all.
Now, would you add voiceovers? Because this game has none.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I would. And
Too
I
many people would
and
complain. Too many people would complain if it wasn't.
and the narrator would have to be British, just because it
True.
would be funny.
Just because that's true.
Because
That is true.
it would not fit any in any way, shape, or form fit Goemon setting, which would make it that much funnier.
That is true. Okay. Yeah. Because that's something I didn't even think about. I mean, I always was like, should you add voiceovers? But there is a lot of dialogue in the cutscenes. But in
Well,
between,
I
there's
would
not a lot.
do the dialogue for the narrator,
Okay.
and for boss introductions only. I would not narrate. I would not give everyone voices.
Right. Right.
One,
Right.
because it takes too long,
Right.
and two, because again that just adds to the comedic factor, and you can always make the dialogue of the characters reference that. Like I
Hmm.
hear this disembodied voice, but when I talk, all I hear is beeps and bops.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's stuff that they could add in that just makes it that would one make the game funnier, and two show that they're self-aware of what they're doing, and three, I
Hmm.
think again that would just make it more enjoyable for people.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and something else you mentioned too that I just thought about that's not even in the game. Side quests. Nowhere in the game.
Yep.
Is literally go to this level, collect these keys, unlock these doors, beat this boss. Cutscene.
And say Goemon's supposed to be a hero. Why is he not having some sort of side quest where he gets sidetracked to help people?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, once when because it's at the beginning. I mean, granted, they're getting kicked out of a restaurant in the beginning, but you see the UFO heading towards the Odin Castle, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go and save whoever's at the Odin Castle, and yeah, I mean, as far as a hero, he's not doing anything heroic outside these these main levels, if you will. But yeah, definitely is something that they can add to give a little more, I guess you could say, flavor to the game, so you're not just so focused on the main drive the entire time. Because I mean, the game can be beaten fast if you just kind of go straight through and don't try to collect. But I think that was kind of their side quest, if you will, was the collectathon situation with all the I guess you would call them dolls, like the little cat dolls
Hmm.
and the little puppets and stuff that you would
Yeah,
find. But I mean, some of those were just easy enough to find in the level that they were not really all that hidden.
yeah, but they could make it so that you could earn additional things from the side quest, or they could make the dolls and stuff be part of the side quest.
And I think
Take some of
that's
them out of
better.
the levels and make them part of the side quest.
I think that's better because I mean, still to this day, I mean, I haven't gotten confirmation, but I feel like there's 100 cats, and I've only ever found 99. I just have this in my head that it's 100 because I'm like, why stop at
It might
99?
it could have that Banjo Kazooie glitch where there's a
Yeah.
collectible that's in the game but you can't get it,
When I tell
which
you,
is ridiculous.
I was scoured. And same thing with Banjo. I didn't know this until someone told me that there was a glitch for that. So I was like, I spent all that time, and this is one of the main reasons I beat the game so much. Because I'm like, there has to be another one. because when you beat the game, they give you a tally of everything that you've collected. And when you look at it, there's clearly a slot for a 100th cat. Where is it? I've gone over every overworld. I've gone to every nook and cranny of every level, and there's no 100th cat. And I can't find 100% speed run. No
They
one's
forgot to
done
put
a
it in. They forgot to put it in. They like, oh, sir, is the game ready to go? Yeah. Did you put the other cat in? Yeah, I put the other cat in. Just print it.
Right. And I even went as far as using my Game Shark. I was like, it's got to be in here. There's nothing referencing this in Game Shark. Because, with Game Shark, at the time you plug it in, then it takes you to that screen and you can select what you want to select. But there was nothing about that damn cat. I don't know.
That was the one that they forgot to program.
That game in
That's
that
why
one cat got me to beat that game damn near 10 times looking for that cat. This is nuts.
Hey, you got your money's worth.
Oh yeah, definitely. My grandma got her money's worth because we played the hell out that game, man. I tell you, I think the only thing I played more was Mario Party, as the center of my hand burned from the damn analog stick circling around and never making it. Never made it. I'm like, oh, we got this. And at this time, I'm from Alabama. We're in this very tiny room with a bunch of cousins. So trying to do that, and it's hot. We haven't eaten. Like, you have a lot of people about to pass the hell out. They just have sweat, just to never make it. It's like, fuck this, man.
Mario Party, known for hurting fingers since 1996. Known for hurting fingers and hands since 1996.
Hurting your hands and breaking your friendships.
Yep.
Didn't even know they were giving out gloves for that until like I got older. It was like, gloves? Like, really?
I ain't never hear about it. They did not advertise that at all.
No, they didn't at all.
You had cause I think it was like in one of those Nintendo Power books.
Yeah, that's why nobody heard about it.
Right. Well, yeah, man. I mean, for this game, I think it'll be something big for Konami. I don't think this should be a introduction back into gaming, because I'm pretty sure this is not where they want to be. I'm pretty sure these slot machines are making them way more money, but way less of a headache. So if they could just bring this one back, because I think they said in total it sold 200,000 for the time that it was out.
That's not bad for 64.
Right. And it was, I think majority of its sales went to Japan, because it was like 141,000 in Japan, and then the rest was for the US and UK. But it was only the second entry of a Goemon game in the US. So for this to be like the second entry and it do that well in the US for that time frame, because I know everybody wants everything to sell over 1 million for it to be good, but it was definitely for a niche game that no one had ever truly played in that style, because the first one they released wasn't in this style. I think it was like the real old classic Goemon style back on like the Game Boy, if you will. So yeah, I mean, I think it would definitely stand a chance in a very bleak platforming genre, because I thought something of like a Hadn't Time was going to step up, but that disappeared quick. So it's something new has to come into the foray that people are already familiar with, especially in the Japan era. They're already familiar with it. It's in their history, it's in the lore, everything is there. So just release it and watch it go to work.
So do you re-release the first one to drum up interest, or you just dive straight in?
I think with this one, with it being a complete remake, I wouldn't even waste my time releasing the original. Because for me, based off of, if you're going to make all these changes that me and Andre have listed out, there's no reason to release that old game.
At least not first anyway. But like if you're going to do it and you add these changes to what we just talked about, this gets out there and it gets popular, then you consider saying, okay, well, we'll go back and do the other story and just rebuild from there, because you would still have to do new changes for that game too.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Either way.
That is true.
Yep. So I mean, I would just save time and money, just do this new one. Now whether they continue it, that's solely up to them. Because, like I said, not all of them are in this style, this open world 3D style. So you got a lot of side scrolling puzzle. You got the puzzle boards. So they're very diverse in the type of genres that this game falls under. It's just a matter of which one you like. You like the puzzles? Do you like the side scroll? Do you like the 3D action adventure? Do you like the slot machine? It just depends on what it is that you like from Goemon.
Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Since we talk about Konami and their pachinko machines, they could put in a whole town ripping it from Pokemon, a whole game town for that type of stuff and make jokes about it.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, because you look at what game like Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy VII is a full on remake. If you didn't play the first game, you would swear this is what the first game was like. But it's different. It's a completely different game if you like to here and there. But it's one of those things to where you can add pieces to make it better, and most people wouldn't know the difference. It's just
Well, because most people ain't played it.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can definitely just you can make this something that people are like, oh man, this is a new IP. Like, yeah, sure, go ahead, that's fine. Sure, that's a new IP, and then that way, you do your quality of life changes, making it super modern, if you will. Yeah, I mean, it'd be a great game, definitely for the single player aspect of things. I mean, because there's no room, I don't think, for any multiplayer unless you go the It Takes Two route and make the multiplayer games or the mini games multiplayer. But I wouldn't
Which
see a
wouldn't be a
reason.
bad idea.
It wouldn't, because I mean they do have a separate section to where you can go directly to the mini games you've unlocked. So you don't necessarily have to make it through the game to actually get to the mini games.
Yeah, I could see that being fine. And then for if they wanted to do that and make the mini games, put the mini game section in, allow you to also use other characters that you might have encountered in the mini games outside of your main cast.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, because they definitely have memorable characters. So I mean, it's definitely in the cards for you to be able to utilize those characters in those mini games. Because as far as the game, it wouldn't make sense, but definitely the mini games. But outside of that, man, I mean, like you said, quality life changes, definitely graphical changes. This is one for sure. I would say 60. This has to be 60 frames. I
Yeah,
don't really harp on that much, but with this much platforming in this game, and
you're
even in
going
that
to need
first
it.
level, you're gonna need it because even in this first game, you miss one ledge, he's going on sliding down that mountain, and you're starting over. There's no
Yep.
way around it. So
Why stop at
it's
60, man? Go full 240.
hey, why not? Make it super fluid. Make it super fluid. I
You're
mean,
right. 680 frames a second. There you go.
and 120K, we can knock this all the way out, man. See every hair follicle when he goes Super Saiyan, which still looks weird. It
Weird.
literally looks like he took a gold hat, like hair hat, and just put it on top of his blue hair.
Yeah.
It still looked weird to this day, but
I think was that the whole point though?
I
I think
think
that was
so.
the whole
Yeah.
point, yeah, to make it look like ridiculous because everybody back then was making fun of even though it's one of the most iconic things in anime, people were still making fun of that whole Super Saiyan transformation bit.
Yeah, because that's literally what it was. As soon as you get that transformation, he gets stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks different as the hair.
The only thing, just the top portion, not even the
Yeah,
base.
besides,
It's like this blue gold. It's like what? Y'all couldn't have done all of his hair. Like, all right, y'all got it.
No,
at this
they
point, y'all are
halfway
trolling. Y'all are trolling
Look,
for real.
he got a partial Super Saiyan transformation.
Yeah,
That's pretty much. Because imagine Supersonic being half blue, half gold. That just it wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't. But honestly, I
Where
think
just his
this
head changed colors.
would be creepy. I'm like, nah, I don't even want to turn Supersonic. I'm good.
yeah.
Man, for that type of game anyway, like Supersonic, I think that was, I don't know, he was too fast. Because I think he was just I would fly off of levels most of the time going Super Saiyan. I'm like, okay, this is kind of pointless. I'm gonna die anyway. It's like, what is going on? Not so
Now,
super there,
see
Sonic.
that came down to you knowing the layouts of those levels
Oh
real
yeah,
well.
for
If
sure.
you knew the layouts, you were good. If you didn't, yeah, you were screwed.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, man. I mean, but yeah, this is one of my favorite series. Like I have a Nintendo 64 and I bought the cartridge. I was able to find it. Bought the cartridge, but the battery inside the cartridge was dead. So I
so it
couldn't
don't
save it.
retain the saves.
Yeah. So I had to go on a hunt for the control pack. And then the control pack didn't work. So it was like, all right, cool. So I just pulled a like what we did for Kingdom Hearts before we got memory cards for the PS2. Just leave it on. And then just
Mm.
play it straight through. But yeah, it's still a good game, man. Still a good game to this day. I mean, I would say if you have an opportunity to play it, definitely play it. You know, it's a good game. You're definitely going to get lost and confused because there are some things they just don't explain. So if you can find a manual online, pull up the manual because you're going to need it because they don't explain too
Yeah,
much of nothing in that game.
just kind
Bro,
of throw
any
you to
like
the wolves.
yeah, I mean there's some key things they'll throw at you when it comes down to like impact um, and then actually doing your transformations when you get those new powers. But outside of that, nah, you just better press buttons and figure it out.
Like
And
the
then not to
dummy
mention,
trying to fly the Enterprise.
yeah, I mean it's just like because I mean then you have to factor in too. They may have to change up the control scheme
Oh, they would
because
have to for the new
this
controllers.
yeah because this is 64 we're talking about. So you jump with A, attack with B, and then you would switch your weapons with left and right with C, and then you would do certain I think you would do your magic powers or your power ups with C up, and I forgot what C down was. But yeah, I mean you would have to change that around because that would correlate to the right stick, and that's not something you want. That's
Mm-mm.
because now we got two trigger button. I mean we got four trigger buttons now, so I mean you can definitely do that, but they'll have to remap a lot of those
Yeah,
button inputs.
yeah, but they could be remapped for the better since
Oh yeah,
every controller formation is basically the same, unless they were to it doesn't make a difference. Even if they were to exclusively put it on the Switch, it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
I
Everybody
think it'd
has a
be
controller that looks the same now,
right.
essentially.
But I think it'd be stupid if they sent it anywhere other. I mean, other than Switch. I don't think
Well,
Microsoft probably would buy it.
Japan, if you do Japan, you probably want to put it on Sony and Nintendo.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
You would probably want to do that.
because I mean, I'm pretty sure that N64 crowd split heavily. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure a lot of them didn't stay Nintendo.
Yeah.
But definitely, if you put it on PlayStation, Steam, and Switch, you'll definitely get the response you need for sure.
yeah,
They will pick it up and buy it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm. Hey, if you want to do a uh, what you call it, not a fundraiser, but
A GoFundMe.
GoFundMe. There
the
you go.
Kickstarter.
A Kickstarter, whatever you want to call it. I'm right there. I'm all for it. I will definitely put my bid in. Um, I wouldn't go outrageous like most people say I'm donating $100. I'd be damned, but I'll
Yeah.
definitely
Well,
I'll
look, get
give you
me in at the
60.
baseline price.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give you 60 for it. I think it's because even still to this day, I feel like it's $40-$50 game. But if you give those quality life upgrades, it's definitely a $60 game for sure. For sure. I
Okay.
mean, with the content that they have in there, like I said, the humor, the music, the level design, uh, the characters, um, the bosses, it's there. It's a great game. And like you said, it was a 90s type of game. So it was definitely 90s through and through. So for me, it was either play this or Quest 64. And you let me know what you would have chose.
Yeah, I would pick Goy. I pick Mystic Ninja, but
There's no
the
way in the
bad
world I'm picking Quest. I'm picking Quest. No.
bad thing is I did have Quest 64. Nearly almost I almost beat that game until my brother messed up my save file,
Wow.
And
and
you
I
don't
was
want to
like,
go
"Yeah, I'm
back
not
through
going back through this game."
it? You
Nope.
want to go back through
But see,
it?
that's the thing though. I was one of those. I lived and I died by Quest 64. But then again, it was only two games that my cousin had. It was Quest 64 and Super Mario 64. So I played Quest, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to love this game because I want to play the Nintendo 64. So I'm going to like this game.
There were interesting things in Quest 64. I just think it didn't shine the way they wanted it to.
Who made that game?
But I don't even remember at this point.
Was it Camelot?
I thought it
might have been. It might have been. You know what? Let me look that up real quick.
Yeah, because that sounds familiar.
It was an Imagineer.
Sorry,
okay.
Imagineer, THQ, and Konami.
Also, Konami was a part of this.
Wow.
Yeah, Konami published it.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Yeah, and Imagineer, they were the developers of it. I thought it was Camelot.
I'm pretty sure they shut down. I am pretty sure that they shut down.
Yeah, I'm about to say I've never heard that name again. Well, that's my first time hearing it in the first place, but I'm curious as to what else they've produced.
They are defunct at this point. They were a Japanese company.
Yeah.
Oh no! They're still going.
Yeah, they're still going.
Making what?
They actually have a long
mobile games. They got a lot of mobile games.
Jeez, this laundry.
And Wolfenstein 3D.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, they did Turrican. I did not know that. Okay, I'm not going to talk trash on them anymore. I'll leave that alone.
Yeah, I'll leave that alone. I guess I should be talking about stuff I don't know about.
We're going to leave them alone. y'all did my book because y'all made Turrican, so we leave you alone. But
yeah, Quest 64. That was my go-to until Mystical Ninja showed up. And I tell anybody, I think my grandmother got a lot of my games from, I think it was Walgreens. That's where I got a lot of gems. That's where she got NFL 2K5 and NBA 2K5 from.
Because they were just sitting right there at the counter.
$20 right there. She was like, a $20 game? For sure, I'm picking that up. And little did she know, still one of the most beloved football games to this day.
the game that pretty much the Vicarious Vision said, okay, y'all think we don't know what we're doing? All right. Let us show you how good we are. We're going to slash our own prices. We're going out of business anyway, but we're finna outsell Madden.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I mean, a lot of
they
games
definitely did.
Were like bargain bin situations. Yeah. Like for me to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Power Stone 2, I got it from the pawn shop.
Oh man, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was fire.
Pawn shop, Dreamcast. Because at this time when I got it, the Dreamcast was done.
Yeah.
So from this was like
the Dreamcast was DOA.
Yeah.
It was dead on arrival.
Yeah. I remember as soon as I got it, my aunt was like, I just got a Dreamcast. What game should I get? I was like, you might as well take that back. It's done. It's a wrap. Yeah, so at that point, we started going to flea markets, and there was this guy that would sit at this booth, and he had all like burnt discs of every Dreamcast game you wanted, and he was only charging you like $2 for each game.
Yep.
Because
that's what killed the system.
Yeah, because people were doing it, especially on college campuses. Because I know on my campus, there was a couple of people that was doing that. They were doing that for that and PS1 games.
Yeah.
If I got everything, dog. I got 2K1. I got Tekken 3. I got it all, baby.
Yeah.
Why don't y'all come by?
See, the thing is, like, my mom, she couldn't say anything because, like I said, I had bought all my games myself at that time because I had taken my birthday money, my Christmas money, and bought it. So there was this guy at school doing exactly that. But what he was doing was the weirdest thing ever. He wanted one of my real copy games, and he would give me 3 of the burnt copy games. So I would come and, like, say, for example, I would give him, let's say, Power Stone. He would give me 18-wheeler, NBA 2K2, and Tony Hawk all on a burnt disc. So it was one real game for 3 burnt ones. I don't know why he was doing this deal. I really don't. But
because he could take the real one and make more copies.
Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I loved it because I had so many. Now it was ugly because it was just a whole bunch of white discs with writing on it. But
yeah,
other than that, I mean, I had every game I wanted, and they worked.
Yeah, dog. You see what I'm saying? If you come to me, man, I'll get you that Power Stone 2. I'll get you that Ready to Rumble boxing. Why does every hustler talk like that? Why does every hustler talk like that?
I don't know, but you said Ready to Rumble, and that's when I got to do one of these for.
Oh,
yes, you do.
At some point.
Afro Man, baby. Afro Man had the best commercials, man.
But
then he had the best commercials.
Afro
Thunder,
yeah.
Afro
detail into it. Do we continue to add celebrities in it though?
Nah, we just need Prince and Mike. Just Prince and Michael Jackson. That's all we need.
That's the fight everybody wanted.
Yeah.
Shaq will come back though. I think.
Yeah, but don't nobody care about him. It's Prince and Michael Jackson. That one glittering glove. That one glittering glove. Dude, y'all know they cheated for him, man. That AI for Michael Jackson ain't make no sense.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I could only beat him with Afro Thunder. I couldn't beat him with nobody else. And that's only because Afro Thunder had that combo. Once you got your meter up, it was over for Mike. But if he messed around and did that, you was done. You were done.
All right, but I think we've run the Goemon train to the end of its logical stations. So we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping up. And thank you, Trinell, for being a good audience member and leaving chat messages. Because Quest 64 definitely was a rough game. It was a good game, but it was rough.
A lot of them games on 64 was rough.
Yeah.
Like jagged rocks, but we're going to move on. So everybody go ahead. Jay, you go ahead and pimp out anything that you want to talk about right this moment.
So as you guys know, we are in the midst of E3. There won't be a podcast tomorrow night because we are going to be doing the Xbox Bethesda conference as well as Square Enix right after it. So that's 1 o'clock to 3:15. We also, myself, Vicky, Mrs. T, and Sandstorm will be doing our first episode review of Loki tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to hear us wax poetic about the God of Mischief, because I am burdened with glorious purpose, check that out at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. And we'll see you guys then.
Yeah.
All right, Jack, go ahead. Anything you got to pimp out?
Yeah. Now that I am completely done with the album, I'm going to, after we get done with our show tomorrow, I'm going to pick out some of the games that I like from Microsoft and Square Enix, and I'm going to speak on them on my channel. So that's going to be like a quick video to kind of touch bases on what I liked and what I saw. Because honestly, even though we're looking at this and we don't necessarily have the time to go over detail as into what we like, I think the only reason why I came up with this idea was that Gorilla's collection. Thing that, because there was way too many. So what I'm going to do is try to do like a video a day. I'm going to have to do the Gorilla collection one after all of the stuff that we do. But I'm going to definitely go back and touch bases on a lot of games that I'll be paying attention to and keeping a close eye on. So yeah, be on the lookout for that on my channel.
Okay. Well, before I wrap up, I have a special message there from a particular lady that says Celebrity Deathmatch, and yeah, I probably will do one on that if I think about it, because they did have a game, I think, on the original Xbox. So yeah, I will probably do Celebrity Deathmatch.
Nice.
If I can think of some way to set it up where it would actually be funny, like the original show.
Yeah,
but
you have that dialogue in that. Have to.
That Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon is still my favorite episode. Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon is my favorite episode. Period.
Okay, but for my channel particularly, earlier today, my Why You Know game for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, a remake utilizing the Dragon Age engines or game engine, the way it was basically running the game, how Dragon Age works, and having Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 actually connected through, like, one save leads to the other game. Stuff like that. Like, so go ahead and listen in on that. Hopefully EA will pay attention. I mean, they stole my Star Fox idea, so why not take this one? Which is actually their game. But that aside, like I said before, if anybody's interested in jumping in on one of these, you got a game idea you want to talk about, let me know. We'll set something up. And I did this one at 7, started at 7 today on Saturdays, because my poll on Twitter wasn't very helpful. But that's fine. So I'm thinking in the next 2 weeks, then episode 6 will be up. I'll post about it ahead of time. I won't drop it on y'all like I did this time around, so you all know. But that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If there's any games that you think that you would like me to talk about on this, even if you don't want to come on, just leave it down in the comments, and I'll make sure that I'll get around to it. I'll consider it and look forward to it. That's it, everybody. Thank you very much for joining in. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me and my guests. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.